I don't know what to do and am desperate for some sage advice. My situation is that I am all on my own and have no family to go to or even discuss with, and I have lost all my friends over the course of this relationship. I have no one to talk about this with because I also don't trust anyone in my former circle not to start gossip either. So I'm coming here. I met my boyfriend 6 years ago. We hit it off instantly and became close friends, which turned into an on-again, off-again situation. I found out he was involved with several girls and another situation at the time. I tried to break it off several times, but then we became exclusive 3 years ago. He moved into my apartment a couple months after we started dating. After 3 years of living together, I desperately want to leave the relationship and never see him again, and I feel guilty as hell for it. I feel like he has taken advantage of me and is not being honest about his condition. And this is why I need to go into the backstory. I don't know if this man ever really loved me or if he is just using me for a place to stay and medical care that doesn't seem to be helping. When he moved in, he brought barely anything but his computer and clothes. He had $100. Something felt off, but I ignored it because we were so happy at first. A few weeks in, I discovered he was more of an alcoholic than he originally let on. Another week after that, I discovered he had been texting other girls and his ex. We had a huge fight. About a week later, this would be about 2 months after moving in, my boyfriend hurt his neck. I wasn't there when he did it. He said that he cracked it wrong and felt paralysis, then pain down his arms and shooting pains in his neck and shoulder. I took him to the ER where an MRI was performed, resulting in a herniated disc diagnosis. The doctor said it should heal and gave him Valium. Since then, his condition got worse. I have taken him to see 5 different doctors who have not been able to diagnose what he has beyond herniated discs. His only treatment plan has been Neurontin, muscle relaxers, and Klonopin. He also periodically gets hydrocodone scripts when pain is severe, but it doesn't seem to help him. Actually, nothing does. I should know. I am the only person that cares about this man's health care. He doesn't know how to make doctor appointments. He doesn't know how to research insurance, and he has no money. I have done all of this myself, desperately trying to get back the man I loved. Our relationship has stalled because he blames his pain for everything. For instance, he can't help that he screams at the top of his lungs for hours, ranting about everything he can, usually directed at me and why he can't get any help from the right doctors. But he also says he can't kiss me for too long because he can't breathe correctly. He can't sleep in the same bed because his back pain is so severe. We can't ever go do anything because he's constantly in pain. I have taken on 3 to 4 jobs to pay for his medical care and all of the other bills. He cannot work. No doctor has been able to help him in 3 years. We have seen many, and I take him to the ER almost every month for pain attacks. They never find anything wrong, despite him screaming at them that he can't breathe and is in crisis type of pain. They do some simple tests and send him home with Valium. But you know what? In 3 years, he has never called any doctors or showed an interest in doing. I research and make all the appointments. I take him to the appointments, and he actually begs me to go in with him to see the doctor, so I also talk for him at these appointments. He doesn't drive, so I get all of his prescriptions and also must help him manage taking them. He overtakes them if I don't. What is really scary is how he gets violently angry and starts yelling every day due to pain attacks. Out of nowhere, he will start screaming, shouting, shrieking, threatening himself and me with harm, punching walls, breaking things. And during these episodes, he will verbally attack me and our messy apartment, or how poor we are, or even yell at my cats. I don't have time to clean. He never cleans but leaves a mess wherever he goes. He smokes constantly and yells if he does not have cigarettes or Zaza. Admittedly, I am an enabler, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing at first. I just wanted to help because no doctors have been able to, but now it is overboard. But if I don't get him everything he wants, he starts yelling and screaming more. My childhood was very hurtful. We were homeless for a little while. I believe that I resist confrontation with everyone because of how I learned to hide growing up, and this is why I haven't been able to stand up to him. I am afraid that he will wreck the apartment even more, or even that he would die in the street if I force him out. I work over 60 hours a week, and while it's true I can barely afford all the medical bills and rent, other bills, and groceries, his verbal abuse is so severe and targeted, but he says I should ignore it because it's because of his pain and he doesn't mean it. He will apologize with tears at the end of the day and beg me to forgive him. I always do because I just want him to leave me alone at this point. We fight constantly, especially when I am tired and can't take his screaming/abusive rants. I have asked him to leave several times, but it always goes back to him having nowhere to go. He has family, and they have a house in another state, and that he wants to harm himself, specifically that no one will help him, so he might as well just end things for himself. I would leave, but I don't want to move. I worked so hard for my peace, and I loved my apartment before all the holes in the walls and grime everywhere. It's also the most affordable apartment due to my history. It's probably not worth it to hold on to it. What should I do? How can I make him leave without him going homeless or further causing harm when he is in so much pain? Am I terrible for not wanting to take care of him? I just can't do it anymore. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Getting him to leave without making him homeless. That's his job, not yours. You can't keep anyone from homelessness by letting them live with you. They need to provide their own housing. And trust me, he will if he needs to. But right now, he doesn't need to. Self-harm. He knows that this is his pass to end all discussion about his behavior or staying where he's not wanted. He knows that you're suffering because he's there, and he thinks it's a fine price for you to pay, and the only cost to him is to force some tears every night. If he's actually suicidal, he is not. Then you should call the police or a mental health clinic, not provide him excuses to not seek treatment. If he were actually at risk, you'd be making it worse by letting him stay. You literally have zero reasons to let him stay with you. Letting him stay won't get him back to the way he was before. Letting him stay won't help with his addiction. It'll make it worse. In the history of addiction and abuse, enabling the habits have never ever, not once, solved the issue. You have to make this happen. He can't and he won't. Helping him consists of not letting him continue. There is nothing else to do for him. If you want things to change, then you have to change things. You won't get your old boyfriend back by letting this one stay in your life and make you miserable. Comment 2. I'll start with logistics of getting him out, with the caveat that this only applies if you're in the US. I don't know how it works in other countries. If he is not on the lease, and you're not breaking the terms of your lease by having let him move in, then you contact your landlord/property manager and ask them to do a formal eviction. But note that if you're in violation of the terms of your lease by having him there, you are likely to be evicted as well. If he is on the lease, you might be able to get a restraining order and then go to the landlord and ask them to terminate him from the lease. Generally, though, landlords don't want to get involved in the drama. As long as they're getting their money, they don't care. So back to the restraining order. If you have one, police can help extract him regardless of the tenancy status. If he is violent, doing damage, or threatening to harm himself, you could call emergency services and they could remove him temporarily at least. Emotionally, you're in a hurtful relationship. You are not responsible for his well-being, only your own. If he ends up homeless, not your problem. That doesn't make you a bad person at all. You may have to find a way to extract yourself. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been 3 days since my last post, and I've got some updates for you. Things have taken a turn, and I'm still reeling from the events that unfolded. First off, I decided to confront my boyfriend about everything. I couldn't take the constant yelling and the mess anymore. I was at my wit's end. I told him he needed to start taking responsibility for his health and his actions, or he had to leave. He didn't take it well. He started screaming, saying that I was the only one he had and that I couldn't abandon him. It was the same old story, but this time I stood my ground. The next day, while I was at work, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman claiming to be my boyfriend's ex. She said she had seen my post online and wanted to tell me something important. My heart was pounding as she revealed that my boyfriend had been lying to me about his condition. She said that he had pulled the same act with her and that his pain attacks were just a way to manipulate and control. I was shocked. I had suspected something was off, but hearing it from someone else made it real. I rushed home, ready to confront him with this new information. But when I got there, I found him on the floor, crying and clutching his neck. He said he had another pain attack and begged me to take him to the ER. I was torn. Part of me wanted to help him, but another part of me remembered the ex's words. I decided to call an ambulance instead of driving him myself. At the hospital, the doctors did their usual checks and found nothing new. But this time, I demanded answers. I told them about the ex's call and my suspicions. The doctors decided to do a more thorough check, and that's when they found it. My boyfriend had been hiding his medication, taking just enough to show symptoms, but not enough to get better. He was addicted to the attention and care he received from being sick. I was furious. I felt betrayed and used. But there was also a part of me that felt sorry for him. He was sick, just not in the way I thought. The doctor suggested a rehab program, and after a long, tearful discussion, he agreed to go. I realized then that I couldn't be the one to help him anymore. He needed professional care, and I needed to take care of myself. I went back to our apartment, which now felt like a prison of memories. I started cleaning up, throwing away the remnants of our toxic relationship. It was hard work, but it felt good to reclaim my space. I even found a few of his old love letters, which I read one last time before tossing them out. The next day, I received a call from the rehab center. My boyfriend had left in the middle of the night. They didn't know where he was. I was worried, but also relieved. I knew I couldn't go back to the way things were. I had to move on, even if it meant he might be out there somewhere, struggling. That evening, as I sat in my now cleaner apartment, I heard a knock at the door. It was my boyfriend, looking more broken than ever. He said he couldn't do the rehab, that he needed me. I felt my resolve waver, but I remembered the pain and the lies. I told him I couldn't do it anymore. He begged, cried, and even got angry, but I didn't budge. Finally, he left, and I watched him go, feeling a mix of sadness and relief. I knew I had made the right decision, but it still hurt. I was alone now, truly alone, but I also felt free for the first time in years. Boyfriend won't let my dog leave the house, then I find out his past. My boyfriend sounds so irrational. It's crazy to me. He doesn't think our dog should leave the house. Our dog is small, medium size, and my boyfriend thinks it's dangerous to take him places. He's worried the dog could hurt himself while on a walk or while we're out, like if I take him running. He's also worried about other animals or people hurting him. He argues that taking our dog to a forest preserve is dangerous. We have a herding breed. He can handle hikes and runs. In the summer, my dog and I went on a hike with my friend and her dog, and he flipped out. He was mad because I brought our dog around another dog, but our dog has been around other dogs, and this dog in particular, he gets along with well. They've met before and played. One time, our dog was attacked by a dog in our yard. No serious damage. It was broken up quickly. So now he worries other dogs will attack and doesn't want to take a chance. We agreed not to bring him around the dog who attacked him, obviously. It's a friend's dog. I took our dog on a hike a few months back, and he came home limping, but I just assumed he pulled a muscle because he's not used to getting out much. The limping was gone in 2 days or so. He's totally fine now, even after this yearly exam. I'm trying to take him out more because when he sits inside, I feel bad, and he's overweight now. My boyfriend said the limping was my fault. I tried to explain our dog must have walked on his leg or paw the wrong way, and that he was fine. It was only a hike. He's a herding breed. We got into a huge fight. My boyfriend was fuming, but our dog ended up being okay. I just don't see sheltering my dog to the point where I can't take him anywhere or have him around other dogs at all. My boyfriend and I have argued about this multiple times. I told him I will not shelter our dog. He said he sees no point in the dog needing to go elsewhere besides our yard. I've argued, what kind of life is that for our dog? He should experience more than our house and yard. My boyfriend strongly disagrees. Any advice? I don't get how I can allow him to understand what I'm trying to say. He's being irrational and super stubborn about this. I've taken our dog places many times: parks, breweries, forest preserves, neighborhood walks, friends' houses. And I think my boyfriend is maybe just hyper-focused on the limping incident and the minor dog attack that happened in our yard. I don't see how that means our dog should never go anywhere ever again. Edit. Thank you to those who are giving actual advice and showing empathy. My boyfriend clearly has an issue, whether it's anxiety or trauma from a past situation. I've had to block a few people who are saying I'm an awful dog owner. I had to laugh when I read those comments because our dog absolutely loves us. He's a well-behaved, lovable, good boy. You people who judge and throw insults take it way too far and are turning this into something it's not. Our dog isn't locked inside all day, every day. Do I need to take him out more? Absolutely. There have been some days that he's inside and we utilize the yard. However, this does not mean he is being abused, and I stand by that. If it were up to my boyfriend, he would be inside all day, every day, and only using the yard. However, I don't allow that to happen. The dog has gained some weight because the frequency of walks aren't what they used to be, but he's not obese, and he's already lost a few pounds. If you are rude or curse at me, you will be blocked and/or reported. Thank you. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It sounds like your boyfriend is experiencing some pretty serious anxiety. You should encourage him to seek treatment for it because it is only going to get worse. His concerns about the dog aren't rational, so you can't argue your way out of them with logic. They are based on anxiety and fear, and you will not convince him with facts and good rhetoric. Comment 2. This breed of dog needs regular exercise and enrichment. Not allowing the dog to burn off his energy is hurtful and going to make him reactive and crazy. Please do not heed your boyfriend's concerns. Now for the update. Hey everyone, back with an update on the situation with my boyfriend and our dog. Things have taken a turn, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. So, after my last post, I decided to have a serious talk with my boyfriend about our dog's well-being. I reminded him of how active our dog used to be, running around at the dog park, playing fetch until he'd flop down, tongue out, happy as can be. I told him that our dog deserves to have that again, to be healthy and not just stuck in the yard. But then my boyfriend dropped a bombshell. He confessed that the reason he's been so against our dog going out wasn't just about the limping or the attack in our yard. Turns out, a few years ago, before we met, he had another dog, a sweet golden retriever. He took that dog everywhere with him, until one day they were out for a walk and his dog got hit by a car. It was a hit and run, and his dog didn't make it. He never told me because it was too painful to talk about. I was floored. I had no idea he was carrying around this trauma. It explains so much about his behavior, but it also made me realize that we had a lot more to work through than I thought. We decided to try and work through his fears together. We started small, just walks around the block. Our dog was thrilled, tail wagging nonstop. But then on one of these walks, we ran into the friend whose dog had attacked ours in the past. It was awkward, to say the least. My boyfriend tensed up immediately, and I could tell he was on edge. The friend apologized again for the incident and mentioned that his dog had been through extensive training since then. He suggested that maybe our dogs could meet again, under supervision, to see if they could get along now. My boyfriend was hesitant, but I could see he was considering it. We agreed to a meeting in a neutral place, a fenced-in area where they could be off-leash, but still separated if needed. The day of the meetup, I could tell my boyfriend was nervous. He kept checking the fence for any possible escape routes, making sure it was secure. The dogs sniffed each other through the fence, tails wagging cautiously. We let them into the same area, and to our surprise, they started playing like old friends. It was a huge relief, and I could see the tension melt away from my boyfriend's shoulders. But just when things were looking up, another curveball came our way. During one of our neighborhood walks, our dogs suddenly started barking and pulling on the leash. We turned the corner and saw a couple arguing loudly in their front yard. Our dog was trying to get to them, and before we knew it, the man noticed us and stormed over. He accused us of spying on them, of trying to get into their business. My boyfriend tried to calm him down, explaining that our dog just reacted to their shouting, but the guy wasn't having it. He got in my boyfriend's face, and I thought it was going to get physical. Then, out of nowhere, his partner came over and recognized us. She was actually an old high school friend of mine. She diffused the situation, apologizing for her partner's behavior. They were going through a rough patch, and tensions were high. We chatted for a bit, catching up, and she even complimented our dog, saying how well behaved he was despite the commotion. After that encounter, my boyfriend seemed to realize that not every unexpected situation has to end badly. He's been more open to taking our dog out, and we've even been back to the forest preserve without any issues. Our dog is happier, healthier, and my boyfriend is slowly but surely working through his past trauma. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm hopeful that we're moving in the right direction. My partner threw out my favorite cereal, and now I'm convinced they're trying to control my diet. Oh boy, were they in for a surprise throwaway because my partner and I follow each other on Reddit. First, let me say I love my partner, but in the last few months he's gone down a worrying wellness rabbit hole and has become obsessed with seed oils and processed food. I was happy when he started cooking more, but he has now gone too far. We no longer buy pre-made salad dressing, normal snacks like cookies or muffins, and very little oven-ready food. He's a good cook, but sometimes I want pizza pockets. This came to a head recently when I bought a loaf of white bread. He threw it out. When I asked him why he did that, he told me it was full of seed oils and hyper-processed preservatives. He said he'd bake some fresh bread in the morning, but I called him out as being controlling and on the road to being an aggressor. He said he wasn't being hurtful and was just worried about our health because of inflammation and other effects. Previously, we got into a similar fight one night as I was eating Oreo ice cream. I offered him some, and he told me he doesn't eat that stuff and said I should be eating the nuts and cheese as a healthier snack. It gets even worse when he links it to my chronic illness. I am disabled because of long infection 19 and CFS, and he told me that my health issues are caused by the way I eat. He unscientifically declared ultra-processed food and seed oils cause inflammation and hormone disruption. I called him out on his gaslighting, and he stormed off telling me he feels better with the diet, and he knows I do too because I have more energy, which although is true is not nearly the point. When you look up the politics of these wellness grifters, it's almost always alt-right, anti-science. Rolling Stone did a great piece on this. I stay up at night worrying he will fall into the alt-right. I thought this was going to be the man I marry, but I am so afraid. We threw out all our plastic food containers. What's next? Are our kids going to be banned from cereal? He's going down the road to become a controlling aggressor. I just need advice, Reddit. Edit. Please stick to relationship advice, not health advice. Women go through enough food policing as it is. Edit. I've gotten a lot of hate messages about this. Yes, he pays for most of the food as I only work very few hours because of my low capacity. Because of the same illness, I find it very tiring to do things like make homemade sauces or bake from scratch. He also likes to make dinner, so I rely mostly on him for making dinner. Does not excuse him for becoming hurtful or alt-right. Final update. Wow, this blew up. I talked with my boyfriend and he apologized for throwing out the bread. He told me he hates seeing me destroy my body and my life. He mentioned how I've gained weight, I have, and that I'm not active, I don't really work out, and that he doesn't know what else to do. He said it was like dealing with an addict, but told me that he loved me. I brought up the alt-right aspect of it and he was confused. When I pointed out the obvious connection, he got defensive. He's going to visit his friends for a few days while we figure this out. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It's strange, and it seems you've forgotten how abnormal it is in the first place that new rules he decides to live by, he immediately expects you to live by too. And even worse, he enforces it on you, like the loaf of white bread, for example. That's already emotional abuse to police someone else's eating habits. And it can't be the only thing he's authoritative about. It comes across like he's accustomed to you, following his lead on many things, and it's possible he's even unaware he has taken on an inappropriate and parental role over you. Comment 2. Frankly, Do you want to stay with someone who controls your diet? I avoid using canola oil, but I sure as hell don't make my husband adhere to that. I really think you should follow your gut here. Anyone gullible enough to fall down the wellness rabbit hole is not someone who will make your life better. Get out before he starts drinking colloidal silver or gets you one of those Gwyneth Paltrow coochie crystals. Now, for the update. So it's been a month since my last post, and boy have things taken some turns. After my boyfriend left to visit his friends, I thought I'd have some peace and quiet, but that's when the drama really started. First off, I decided to do a little digging into his wellness influencers. I found out that one of them, who he follows religiously, was actually exposed for some pretty shady stuff. Turns out this guy was not only spreading false health information, but also had a history of manipulating his followers into donating to his wellness retreats, which were never built. When my boyfriend came back, I showed him all the evidence. He was shocked and couldn't believe he'd been duped. It was a jaw-dropping moment for both of us, and it shook his trust in the whole wellness community. But that wasn't the only surprise waiting for us. Remember how I mentioned my chronic illness? Well, I had a doctor's appointment to discuss my ongoing symptoms, and the doctor suggested a new treatment plan that might help. It involved some dietary changes, but nothing as extreme as what my boyfriend was pushing. When I told him about it, he was relieved and agreed to support me through it. No more throwing out food or policing what I eat. Things were looking up, but then came the confrontation. One evening, I caught him secretly throwing out a box of my favorite cereal. I was furious. We had a huge fight, and I told him he was being controlling again. He argued that he was just trying to help, but I wasn't having any of it. I reminded him of the promises he made, and he finally broke down. He admitted that he was scared of losing me to my illness, and that he thought if he could control our diet, he could control the disease. It was a moment of vulnerability I hadn't seen in him before. We decided to go to couples therapy after that. It's been a tough process, digging into why he felt the need to control everything and how my illness affected our relationship. We've had some intense sessions with tears and revelations about our fears and insecurities. It turns out, before we met, he lost someone close to him to a preventable disease, and it's been haunting him ever since. He never told me because he didn't want to burden me with his past. Through therapy, we've been working on finding a balance. He's been trying to let go of his need to control, and I've been trying to be more open about my needs and limits. We've had good days and bad days, but we're making progress. Now, for the bittersweet part. Last week, my boyfriend got a job offer in another city. It's a great opportunity for him, and I can see how excited he is about it. But it means he'll be moving away, and with my health the way it is, I can't follow him right now. We've talked about it, and we've decided to try a long-distance relationship. It's going to be hard, and I'm scared of what the future holds for us. He's been packing his things, and we've been spending as much time together as we can before he leaves. Last night, as we were cooking dinner together, he found an old bottle of store-bought salad dressing hidden at the back of the fridge. We looked at each other, and without a word, he put it back and hugged me. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. It showed that he's trying, that we're both trying. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.